Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode where we will be discussing a stock as part of the 100 Days Stock Analysis series. So, today I have chosen Solar Industries because I think there's something very interesting and there's a lot to discuss on that chart. So, without any delay, let's move towards the chart and look at the technical parameters which have made this stock interesting to us. And as I discuss through those, I will also try to help you. Hold on, I think the mic is not working here. Sorry, give me a second. Some technical issue. Okay, let's try that again. Okay. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulty here. Just give me a second. Okay. No, this is not working. Sorry, Rajendra ji, just hold on for a second. There is some technical issue that I'm getting at my end. I just need to fix that real quick. Okay. Just that seems to have cracked it. Now we'll just set up the key again. Okay, so we were able to fix the issue and start the live again. Hopefully, the issue won't be coming back again for a while. So we'll just arrange the windows on my screen. Perfect. All right. So now let's start with the screen share. So we will open Solar Industries in the blog post layout. The reason why I'm choosing a different layout is because a lot of people always want me to use white background. And my dominant layout that I use has black background because doing technical analysis for long hours on white background can really strain the eyes. So we'll go with Solar Industries there. Let's remove the existing drawings and let's start from scratch. Okay, so you can see there are three layouts open: the 75-minute time frame, the daily time frame, and the weekly time frame. Okay, so let's start with the weekly time frame and get a sense of the broadest trend that is unfolding on the stock and see where it is going. So clearly we can see there is a very strong bull trend. So let's use the trend line tool by pressing Alt T, and I can see a sort of a trend line here. If I join these peaks, let's change that color to black. Okay. I think I need to adjust this obviously. So there we go. I'm going to, for now, I'm joining the wicks. Let's clone that, set that down over here, and I can see we have our bottom. If we set that down over here to get some, so this is where I'm setting it down. Adjust a little bit, just drawing my internal trend lines. Now this is the bottom that I'm capturing, and I can see on this, when I set it down here, I can see some interaction or overlapping there. And this is the weekly time frame still. Okay, so I'm just drawing my internal trend lines to capture the key reversal points or key price points. Now, based on this upward trending channel with internal trend lines that we've drawn, what I am clearly seeing is that there is a strong upward trending. Uh, there's a strong uptrend unfolding on solar industries. This blue line that you're seeing is the 250 EMA of the 1 day time frame. Oops, that was not intended. Let's just undo that. Right, so this is the 250 EMA, and as you can see, this 250 EMA was a strong support point back in July 23, and now also it has acted as support. So after the correction was ended here, the subsequent rally has been pretty strong. So now that we've studied the price action, let's turn our attention to the RSI of the weekly time frame. What is the RSI telling us? The RSI has been on the weekly chart above the level of 40 ever since the inception. Let's change this color to red. And it has also been above the level of 75 repeatedly, which means that ever since IPO, Solar Industries has been in a strong RSI positive range, which basically means that the underlying trend has been very, very bullish. So now let's go one time frame lower. What are we seeing here on the daily time frame? Okay, so the trend line trajectory and everything remains the same over here. From the EMA perspective, the 20 EMA has crossed over the 250 EMA, which is this blue line. So this aqua line is the 20 EMA. This dark blue thick line is the 250 EMA of daily time frame. The green line is a 100 EMA of the daily time frame. So you're looking at 3 EMAs here. The 20 EMA has recently crossed over both of them. Okay. A lot of times what I've seen that when the 20 EMA and the 100 EMA does a crossover, after the crossover, the price often takes support at the 100 EMA and gives a very good entry opportunity. So here that opportunity has already been realized and gone. Okay, so what is next? Let's take a look at the momentum on the daily time frame. On the daily chart, this is where the price originally peaked out on 3rd of July. After that, it went into some correction. So let's mark our all-time high right here. Okay. It went into correction. But what is interesting is even when it went into correction, it never broke below the level of 40. Despite of price continuing to form lower lows and lower highs during the correctionary period, right? So from July 23 all the way to February 25. Sorry, July 24 to February 25. It created lower high, lower low, but the level of 40 was never breached on the uh, daily time frames RSI 25 period. Here there was a small positive divergence also. Why is this a positive divergence, or how do you identify a positive divergence? Where you notice the RSI bottoming out, draw a vertical line. After that point, from the price, if you see a lower low forming on the price, but the RSI has already formed its low previously, then you have a situation where the RSI is forming a higher low against the price that is forming a lower low. This creates a positive divergence. Okay. Now, this positive divergence has been confirmed. How? The peak between these two low points, this peak point has been broken out of. Now, you see the pullback that we experienced after the bottom formation. This pulled back to two key support zones. Number one was the 100 EMA that I already told you about. The other was this previous high. So when a stock is forming a higher high formation, right, what we call buy the dip, a very good opportunity to buy stocks which are forming higher highs and are currently in a strong bull run. A good entry opportunity is when it dips to its previous high. Why? Because the previous high was initially formed because of the presence of a resistance around there. Now, because the resistance has been breached, the price, when it approaches the same level, acts as the support, offering us a very good entry opportunity. So, here, this level was a very good entry zone, and now we can see the price has continued upward strongly. Let's take a look at the volume. What is the volume showing us? On the daily time frame, I am seeing that the volume was pretty strong at these 2 points. So let's draw vertical lines on these. Now remember, the volume that you're seeing is not raw volumes. This is the MACD volume. So I compare the last 20 days volume to 100 days volume to get the MACD histograms. The signal line and the MACD line have all been removed. I am only interested in the histograms. So here, strong candles or strong bars on the histogram tell me that the volume was very strong on these days. But as you can see, the activity on the first 2 days was bullish, but that did not sustain. And when the activity became strong again, when the price corrected. So that back then, this was an indication that further correction should be expected, which did unfold later on. However, during this rally and this second leg of rally, if you see, the volume activity has not picked up as strongly as it should have. So the daily time frame is telling us that while the momentum is strong and very bullish, the volume activity has not really picked up so much. So we do have a positive bias, but we need to go down one time frame to the 75-minute time frame to assess our next move. So on the 75-minute time frame, what do we see? On the 75-minute, since this bottom was, since this peak was forged here, right? This peak was forged here with a negative divergence. Okay. Again, why is this a negative divergence? Because if you zoom in, you draw a vertical line. By the way, if you're new, you should do this exercise more often. You draw a vertical line where you see the RSI peak. Okay. Now, if you see the price create another peak after the momentum peaks out, then you have a negative divergence on your hand. Basically, what is happening is price is going ahead to form a higher high against RSI, which is forming a lower high. So this is a negative divergence. Negative divergence indicates to us that the momentum has dried out and it's time for the momentum to reverse or take a break, right? So it may not necessarily mean a trend reversal. It may just mean that the momentum of the trend is weakening or is losing its steam. So the trend can either take a pause or it can reverse or it can simply do nothing about it, right? So three outcomes are possible. In this situation, because the rightmost peak of the divergence on RSI touched the level of 60, I think this was a pretty strong negative divergence. As such, it led to the topping out of the ongoing bull trend, right? Here, because the level of 60, because the level of 30 was breached multiple times and the level of 60 acted as resistance, it was very evident that the price had turned bearish. Okay. And it continued to stay so for quite a while. So let's see. Here also we are seeing level of 30 getting breached, 60 getting resisted. Briefly, here the price turned a little bit positive on the 75-minute time frame. right? But it then soon created a negative divergence once again, and the correctionary behavior continued all the way till here, right? Now, here what has happened? Very interesting. So, here you see the RSI has created a bottom, right? Below the level of 30. But from this point onwards, price continued to rally, broke above this high, and continue to go up, continue to go up. Here again there was a negative divergence that got forged. But if you look at the theme, if I zoom out completely, if you look at the broad trend on the 75-minute chart, what I'm noticing is when the RSI goes overbought, it stays overbought for quite a while, which means the personality of the stock is that of a super trender when it becomes bullish. So on the 75-minute time frame, we can see that the level of 60, even 70 was breached very strongly. So this has turned bullish here, and over here it took a small correction but respected the level of 30, right? So the underlying trend is still very strong. Looking at the volume, now let's open the volume setting. The on the volume, we are again comparing last 20 candles volume activity with the last 100 candles of the 75-minute time frame. Okay, what this is showing us here, the change or pickup in volume is more evident, which means the participation is there. Okay, so what we want to do here, uh, we want to wait slightly for a small correction. So because here the contour of the price trend is visible in a better way, basically what I mean is we are able to see the highs, the lows, the swings better on the 75-minute time frame. This peak is where the next support lies for the stock. The trend line also passes through this zone, strong support from the previous high. And let's zoom out, and I can also see that if we extend this zone, it also interacts with a lot of previous price activity. So this becomes a pretty important accumulation zone. So there is, by the way, also resistance right above around the level of 13,000 or 12,850-ish level. So because there is resistance closer than support, it is not a good idea to execute immediately. Instead, what I would do as a trader is, because there is a strong underlying trend, I would continue to monitor the stock. Monitor the stock with the intention of a potential entry around the level of 11,470, right? Because that coincides with the previous high, or just adjust it to 11,400. Let's go into settings and let's write 11,400. Okay. And let's go into text and potential entry. So this looks like the potential entry. Oh, this is needs to be. There you go. Okay. And then where would my stop loss be? So if I am entering on the basis of previous peak and trendline resistance, obviously my entry will be invalidated if both of those get violated. So where will this previous peak get violated? If its low gets breached, which is somewhere around here, I would say, right? So if this level gets breached, it means this entry was not a very good entry point. Also, price reaching this trend line or this level, which would mean that the trend line has also been violated. Okay, so for every trade setup that we identify, we also need to identify the point of its invalidation so that we can save our. Oh, no wonder. Yes, thank you so much, Satvik. I did not know how that happened. Okay, there we go. Much less noisy, right? Okay. All right. So continuing. So, like I was saying, that the invalidation point is very important to identify what is the point where we admit that, okay, this trade setup has either failed or our analysis was not to the point, and I need to suck it up and save my capital from further erosion. So that is why stop loss is very important. Next, potential target. So, like I said, there is a strong resistance around this level, right? So, this previous peak, this acts as a clear cut resistance for us. So around 13,200, and this also gives us an indication of the potential time horizon for this particular setup. So I would expect the target to get achieved sometime around or after the mid of May, if this trade setup is valid, that is right. uh, so here, if we use the long position tool, if we get the entry knowing our stop loss around the level of 10,950 and target around the level of 13,000, the risk 13,200, the risk reward ratio that we are looking at is potentially 4.6, which is good because anything more than 3 is super bullish for us, right? So this looks like a good trade setup with potential entry, stop loss, and target levels. All right. So this was the discussion for today's stock. I will come back with another stock suggestion for Friday, and I will see you again in the live session on Friday at 5:30 p.m. Um, in the meanwhile, before I sign out, I would just like to take a look at the comments. So Anuj is saying, when we see normal volumes have been decreasing since 10th March. Rising prices are rally week. On what time frame are you talking about, Anuj? I think you were probably talking about on the daily time frame. So on the daily time frame, I think the volume has been a little mixed. But on the 75-minute time frame, what I'm seeing is the volume has picked up on the bullish activity. So it looks bullish to me. And let's see. All right. So this is all. Uh, so this is all for today. Thank you so much for joining the session. I will see you again with the next stock analysis, and I will take note of the stocks that you are suggesting in the comments. I can see there's a suggestion for GRSE, suggestion for TCS. I will, after the session, I will look at those stocks, and if I see potential or something concrete worth discussing, then I will pick up the stock for the discussion on Friday. Also, don't forget, Friday is the Market Outlook Series Day, which means I will be doing a deep dive into Nifty and sector indices chart. So be sure to be present for that session because that really builds up our mindset for the next week and gives us an idea of where to look for opportunities, which sectors to look out for in the next week, right? Also, considering that Nifty has already given a pretty good rally, now might be time to start booking profits and looking for potential sector rotation. So stay tuned for that. Another thing, last thing, is that if you want to associate with me and if you want to know more about how I can help you, then go ahead and join my Telegram channel, which is called Trade with Kavita. This is the channel name, Trade with Kavita, around 7,800 members. For your ease, I will drop the link in the chat so you can just click and find it. Now, remember, if you're going to do a search of Trade with Kavita, then there are some fake channels running with similar names, and they've already stolen my photo. I can't do anything about that. So just be careful about those fake channels, please. All right. So the Telegram channel link has been posted. If you found the session, don't forget to give it a like before you leave. Thank you so much for joining in. I will see you again at 5:30 on Friday.